We're good? All right. A minute late. Shh. I'm always late. Welcome, everybody. My name is Avi Rosenthal, and I am proud to be the chair of the Z-Wave Alliance. I'm very glad to be here at the Things Conference. It's the very first time that we've been to the Things Conference, and we'll answer that question in a moment. But I'm very honored to be joined up here with three of our very good partners. Julien, you just heard from Scilabs. Miranda, if you've been here a little while, you heard from a little bit before. From the Open Home Foundation, and Mariusz Malkowski is with Trident IoT. So what we're going to talk about today a little bit is, and we're doing these things a little bit out of order, so I apologize for that, but this is the time slot they gave us, so this is when we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk a little bit about some of the newer technologies and the newer opportunities within Z-Wave and the Z-Wave technology. Some of you may not be familiar with Z-Wave specifically. Z-Wave is a 20-plus-year-old technology. It's been around quite a while. It is deployed in hundreds of, let me start that again. It's deployed in dozens and dozens of countries around the world. Hundreds of companies are member companies within the open standard of the Z-Wave protocol, with literally millions of devices that have been deployed. So in the United States, for instance, there are 35 million homes that contain a Z-Wave device. Here in Europe, that number is about 12 million homes. So it is very widespread. In Asia, we've got another 14 million homes that have the Z-Wave technology in them. So we're sort of the sleeper of the wireless protocol world, right? We're off doing the work every day, command and control mostly, things like thermostats, door locks, light switches, and other kinds of devices. Yet we're not as popular as Bluetooth, and you certainly don't hear about us as often as you hear about Wi-Fi. But slowly but surely, for those of you who have a security system at home, chances are you've got a Z-Wave chip in your security system. And that has for years sort of been our bread and butter, right? The idea that we are in command and control in people's homes. Z-Wave long range and some of the other technologies that we're going to talk about today in these, what do I have, like 50? Oh, the clock's not running, so I have no idea how much time I have left. But in the next 10 minutes or so, are really sort of growing outside of what Z-Wave is known for. Traditionally, again, Z-Wave has been a owned protocol, so a single company owned Z-Wave. About 3 years ago, as Julien had mentioned, the Scilabs folks acquired that technology and set it free. So we are now a standards development organization, or an SDO, and that has given us wings to be able to take off and get all kinds of new opportunities and new technologies within our protocol, and that's actually what we're going to talk about a little bit today. So first of all, I'm going to give each of my members here a moment to be able to introduce themselves. You don't have it? Okay, so we're going to pass the microphone back and forth. So Julien, if you could just tell the group what you are and who you do.
Yeah. So Julien Tiron, I'm a Z-Wave R&D manager at Silicon Labs, so managing the stack development at Silicon Labs. And yeah, glad to be here.
Hi everyone, I'm Miranda Bishop. I'm the Partnership Manager at the Open Home Foundation and our flagship project Home Assistant. Home Assistant is an open source smart home ecosystem.
Hi there, Mariusz Malkowski, Trident IoT. We are the, I wouldn't call it second source, we're the source of the Z-Wave chips. We also help to innovate and work with Silicon Labs hand to hand to advance the standard moving forward. And we have a lot of good stuff for you guys coming next couple of years.
Wonderful. So we're going to start, actually, I'm going to start with Mariusz. I'm going to hand him back the microphone in a moment. Trident IoT is a relatively new company, and one of the core technologies that they are supporting is Z-Wave. So one of the things that I'd like to ask him is, when you're a new silicon company, why do you choose one technology versus another? And so a great place to start, the Scilabs folks understood what the power of Z-Wave were very early on because they acquired the technology and then set it free. But Trident IoT sort of came at it from a different angle, and they decided to create silicon for various RF protocols and included Z-Wave. So Mariusz, maybe you can give us just a little bit of an idea of why Trident IoT chose Z-Wave and how it differentiates from some of the other technologies out there.
Sure. So if you've been to Julien's presentation, he mentioned multi-protocol, right? We're strong believers in multi-protocols. We've ported Z-Wave into our own chip. We also work with Silicon Labs. We work with Semtech. If you go to their LoRa LR2021, we have Z-Wave running on that particular chip. So now we can do multi-protocol. right, along with their transceiver. So we are believers in providing customers a choice. Our customer is a developer. So our goal in life is to enable developers to build IoT products as quickly as possible with with least of pain points as possible as well. Sense?
So, Julien, obviously, Scilab saw the opportunity and the power within the Z-Wave technology. And we thank you very much, by the way, for setting it free. And I make sure that I say that every time I give a presentation with Scilabs. But maybe you can give us an idea of, again, you just gave a short talk about multi-protocol. How does Z-Wave fit into that multi-protocol? And what are some of the strengths of Z-Wave versus some of the other technologies that you have?
Yeah. So as I showed at the beginning of the presentation, Silicon Labs has a really wide radio and protocol portfolio, and the strength of Z-Wave, as you mentioned, is that its deployment, even if people don't know, it's really deployed in a lot of home. So as we discussed, the capability of new devices to depending on the home they are brought in, being able to select the best protocol for their use case, it's really a big thing in that with that multi-protocol capability. So we have customers that are really interested in that capability. So if there is a Z-Wave gateway, leverage it. If not, use another protocol. So that's a big part of why Z-Wave is so strong. And one of the points I made at the beginning of my session is also the fact that in-home automation, it's still the really strong option with that sub-gigahertz capability that the rest of the home protocol solution are missing. And yeah, there is not yet a strong competitor on that band for that market.
Absolutely. I mean, we like to think so too, but then again, I'm a little biased because I'm the CEO of the Z-Wave Alliance, as you would imagine. So, and that brings us to Miranda. So the Open Home Foundation are great partners of ours at the Z-Wave Alliance, as well as partners with lots of other protocols as well. I was part of a launch event that they held just recently, that white stick that's sitting in front of Miranda. For those of you who were not part of her conversation, that's a brand new Z-Wave long-range device that they've just developed. So Miranda, I know the Open Home Foundation doesn't make a lot of hardware, and one of the few pieces of hardware you do make is that really cool antenna and hub that you're showing there. Maybe you can help us understand why that in particular, and maybe some, and not for some of the others.
Yeah, sure. So the Open Home Foundation, we have a commercial partner, Nabu-Casa, who are responsible for the hardware, but we're very involved with what it should do and what we think it should look like and the software behind it also. One of the reasons that we wanted to build out our Connect series with a Z-Wave adapter is because we knew that there was probably a kind of quiet minority in the market who use Z-Wave. They're very dedicated to Z-Wave, and they kind of have this great, obviously the security aspect of it, but the longevity of the devices also. And we wanted to make sure that we were being supportive of that and making sure that the hardware that is produced by Nabu-Casa is ensuring that users can carry on using those Z-Wave devices for the long term. And not having devices drop off their system all the time, replacing it, contributing to e-waste, all those kind of things.
That's a very interesting angle, the e-waste side. There's a lot of, I can tell you that in my own home, for instance, I have a Z-Wave device that's paired with a motion sensor that I use in a closet, and it has been paired and has been used in that closet for almost 22 years now. So it has never been thrown, and it still works every day. The battery life on the PIR sensor has diminished a little bit over time, but believe it or not, it still works. One of the powers of the Z-Wave protocol is that backward compatibility. That PIR, that motion sensor, and that light switch are still compatible with the most modern Z-Wave devices that have come around. So in my network, as you would imagine, I have a wide range of various Z-Wave devices, both old and new, and the interoperability of all of those devices really derive the power of the Z-Wave protocol. And so no matter which manufacturer you're using, no matter which platform you're using. The beauty of the Z-Wave protocol is that we certify every device out there with our logo on it to make sure that they're all interoperable with one another. And one of the most interesting things that we're working on right now is this Wake on Event device. And a Wake on Event device is a device essentially that can sit and just wait years, decades, doesn't matter how long. And when the event comes by, when something happens, something interacts with it, it can wake up and send a signal to a Z-Wave hub immediately. So think of a water sensor, for instance, that's in the bottom of a pump. It just sits, just waits, all right, until there's a flood. That flood may never come, or that flood could come 5, 6, 10 years after you've placed that sensor. In a battery-operated environment, what tends to happen is the battery will die on a device like that. Somebody will ignore its last gasp of breath. It'll send out maybe a text message or a notification saying, I'm about to die. And then once that device is dead, nobody knows. Then the flood comes and everybody wonders, well, why didn't that water sensor actually do what it was supposed to do? Well, it turns out the battery had died years before. A Wake on Event device actually creates its own power. So when that water comes by, it actually releases a spring, and that spring generates enough power to send that signal to the Z-Wave hub, thereby alerting you to the fact that there's water where there shouldn't be. And that's a pretty miraculous thing. And so we're looking at all kinds of other industrial applications surrounding batteryless technologies and batteryless sensors within the Z-Wave environment. Because Z-Wave long range is so incredibly efficient at being able to send signals not only long distances, but very efficient signals short distances as well, we're able to take that kind of protocol and apply it to a system that doesn't require power all the time. So there's some of the innovations that we're working on. Julien, maybe you could give us a little bit of an overview of the new scheduling software and some of the new configuration command classes that we've just come out with.
So I discussed that a bit during my keynote, but we are evolving the common classes implementation, and something that I did not stress out enough is that development is happening in the open source. So the Web Alliance has an open source stack where the different members are contributing, and most of the development of specification I mentioned. So obviously they are discussed inside the documentation of the specification, but also on the implementation side. So when we discuss S2V2, when we discuss those new common classes, there is an implementation, an open source implementation alongside those developments to ensure that we are making the right decision and that it's technically feasible to implement what we are specifying.
So our last couple of minutes, I'm going to talk about security. Obviously, cybersecurity is the number one problem, opportunity within the world right now. We just saw this past weekend, again, airports were having problems because of cybersecurity. We take security very seriously at Z-Wave. The S2 security platform that we brought out a number of years ago was the gold standard for quite a while, and now we are bringing out S2V2. So Mariusz, before we finish up, can you give us just a little bit of an overview about S2V2 and what we expect to see from it?
Oh, how far do you want me to go?
As far as you like. As far as we have time for it. Sessions are very quick.
You know, we very often, yes, to Avi's point, we're kind of behind the scene, right? Because we're so home-centric, but at the same time, we work with all the security providers. We have some of them here in this room. What you will see with Security V2 is much more robust security mechanism, right? So with S2, which is a security that was before, there was a small window of opportunity for an attacker to get that key. Very unlikely. You have to be within premise of a device. You have to listen. You have to know what are you doing. It's pretty complicated, but it is possible. We're closing up all those loopholes with S2V2. All the protocol communication, all the network communication will be encrypted. Again, one could say, why didn't you do it from the very beginning? Because back when we started in 2001, nobody was encrypting, right? No, there was no security per se. There were garage openers that installers would set up with the same dip switches. And again, as the standards are evolving, we are adding more encryption, we're adding more security, we are adding more use cases and preventing us from attacks. Again, not only because we want to be CRI compliant, not only because we want to be Cybersecurity Act compliant, but because it's the right thing to do.
So hopefully that gave you a little bit of an overview about the Z-Wave protocol and some of the new things that we have coming out. I'm giving another talk tomorrow morning about Z-Wave long range specifically and what the benefits of Z-Wave long range are. And it's a very interesting conversation considering that we're standing in the LoRa show that pride themselves on obviously the longest range out there in wireless protocol. So I'd welcome you all tomorrow morning. Come by the Things Theater and hear about Z-Wave long range. Thank you very much for the opportunity, and we'll talk to you all soon.